Hey YouTube, welcome back to Gaijin Hideout. I'm Jeff, and we're back today with more Monster Hunter. So I'm, as some of you know, a streamer that's still pretty new to Monster Hunter. I've got around, 25, 30 hours or something in Monster Hunter World, my very first Monster Hunter game. And I've been covering Monster Hunter Wilds, been learning about the weapons, the other weapons a bit, as I play the game, reacted to some weapon trailers, and now I think it makes sense to go through this video that's a history of Monster Hunter games to kind of get caught up on you know, the lore a little bit, to put these other games in context, especially if I'm going to keep continuing to cover Wilds. I think it makes a lot of sense to react to this. So we're going to go ahead and go right into it. This is from Gaijin Hunter, which is... we share a similar name, but I didn't know about this individual until I started covering Monster Hunter. So kind of disappointed that Gaijin Hunter is taken, because I had this vision of like, okay, I could have one channel per game, and I would have Gaijin's Dogma for Dragon's Dogma, Gaijin Hunter, you know, this and that. But I think I've got my hands full with just one channel. So, anyways, if you want to see a Monster Hunter noob, you know, struggle and triumph through his very first Monster Hunter game, I stream it live every Thursday, 6 p.m. EST over on twitch.tv/Gaijin Hideout. And I also sometimes play different games on Tuesdays. And I sometimes sporadically, it's going to be sporadically going forward, on Fridays do live streams where I react to videos. So, or maybe not on Fridays. I'm not gonna commit because I was so late tonight. So, so join me in chat. Would love to have you, and let's get into the video.
Guys, this is Gaijin Hunter. Sometimes to know where you're going, you have to know where you've come from. In this video, I want to give an overview of the product history of the Monster Hunter.
Gaijin Ring, though, LMAO, I made the channel. I had an awesome design for it. I just can't handle two channels at the same time. I'm gonna just try it on this one. I'm gonna upload Elden Ring's coming to Gaijin Hideout at some point.
Instead of going crazy into detail about each title's game design, this is more of an overview so that you know where and when the series got started, about the dual team structure inside Capcom, and the interesting history of the entries that have been before, and what flagship features they introduced to the series.
Okay.
Disclaimer: I only got into Monster Hunter from Monster Hunter Tri-G in late 2011, so this is based on my research and materials like this developer book, which they released in Japan for the 10th anniversary.
Well, 2011, that's only 13 years of experience. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. That's crazy.
Series in which they go in depth about the creation of each title. As such, I might be getting a thing here or two wrong or leave out an important detail, so please be kind to me if that ends up being the case.
No, you're good, dude.
Also, while I mention the names of the directors and producers, there's a bunch of incredibly talented staff that are legends in the Monster Hunter team here in Japan, like game planner Katsuhiro Eguchi and others who I don't mention.
Oh, look at this.
The year is 2000. Capcom Production Studio 1 has decided they want to develop network-focused games for the PlayStation 2. And
you know what? I just realized something. I've played one of these briefly, so briefly. It was a PSP one. I don't know which one it is. I played one on the Wii very briefly. That was a remake. Or, sorry, on the Switch. But I didn't even get to fighting a monster. But the one where I got to fighting a monster, I think it was this one. I played it so briefly. I think I played it so briefly when I was like a child. When I was a child. Yeah, it was one of these.
Network-focused games for the PlayStation.
You mean your title is all a lie? I'm clipping this out.
PlayStation 2.
I'm clipping this out. You never saw this.
And 3 games are born from this initiative.
It doesn't count because I noped out mid-fight. I didn't understand what was going on.
Automatalista in 2002, Resident Evil Outbreak in 2003, and Monster Hunter in 2004. Monster Hunter. And Monster Hunter in 2002. Production Studio 1 has decided they want to develop network-focused games for the PlayStation 2, and 3 games are born from this initiative. Automatalista in 2002, Resident Evil Outbreak in 2003.
No, I'm still a noob. I'm still definitely a noob. That's for sure.
And Monster Hunter in 2004. Monster Hunter.
And it wasn't my PSP. It's like a demo. It was like I was doing a demo.
Monster Hunter started with the name Monster Hunter, and the concept was simple. Team up with other players and hunt large monsters. Much to Capcom's surprise, the simple name was still available, so they registered a trademark for it in the summer of 2001. The first 2 years was mainly just concept development with a smaller team of developers.
No excuses, Jeff. LMAO. All right, fine. Cancel me. I don't care. Just cancel me. Cancel me if you want for my hot takes and my crazy opinions. But
it wasn't until the last year or so when game designer Kaname Fujioka joined as the director and it started to take shape into a game.
Wow, it's been the same guys all the way through?
The producer at that time was Tanaka Tsuyoshi, and the assistant producer was Shintaro Kojima. The main series producer, which everyone loves, Ryozo Tsujimoto, had worked on Auto Modelista as a planner, the Japanese term for game designer. Using his experience from that title, he was brought on to help with the online network portion of the game.
So again, not a game developer, but I am a software developer. It is so critical to not have turnover, especially if you're like, you know, the lead developers or whatever. I don't know if they touch the code directly. I don't know how that works, but the less turnover you can have on your software, generally speaking, the way better for the, you know, that piece of software and any future, you know, sequels you make.
The creation of the first game is a rich subject and one that deserves its own video one day, so I'm not going to jump too deep into it. But moving to 2003, the team really only had at that point the Forest and Hills map, the ability to cook meat, and the Rathalos hunt. Although the game was bare bones, they showed it off at Tokyo Game Show in 2003. At the show, Yuya Tokuda played the game and was so enthralled by the concept that he ended up joining Capcom afterwards and started working on the series from the next game. He would go on to be a prolific game designer in the series and the main director of Monster Hunter World. The original Monster Hunter game laid the foundation for the series and everything else to follow. Weapon-wise, it only had 6 weapons: the Greatsword, Sword and Shield, Hammer, Lance, and both light and heavy bow guns.
It's the guy!
The game launched on...
Wait! It's our guy! The guy that came in and saved us from Nergigante in Monster Hunter World. Oh, spoilers, I guess. Oh, crazy how some things haven't changed at all since day one. The Huntsman, yeah.
And both light and heavy bow guns. The game launched on March 11th. Hammer. Weapon-wise, it only had 6 weapons.
6.
The Greatsword, Sword and Shield, Hammer, Lance, and both light and heavy bow guns. The game launched on March 11th, 2004 and saw decent success. Nothing huge though, about 280,000 copies in its lifetime. The team was working on the localized English version of the game, and already the team was relentless in wanting to add in new stuff. For example, the dual blades made their debut in the Western version of the game as a variation branch on the Sword and Shield. When they were pressured to in the Western version, relentless in wanting to add in new stuff. Working on the localized English version of the game, and already the team was relentless in wanting to add in new stuff. For example, the dual blades made their debut in the Western version of the game as a variation branch on the Sword and Shield. When they were pressured to release a budget-priced version in Japan, which they did not want to do, they decided to instead make an upgraded version, something great, and a harder rank that took guts to play. And thus the concept of G rank was born, and Monster Hunter G was released in Japan on January 20th, 2005. The game introduced the dual blades as an official weapon class, G rank, and the armor skill point system. The title did even better than the original, but it was still under 500,000 copies. It was released in 2009 as a port on the Nintendo Wii and included a demo for Monster Hunter Tri.
Really?
Monster Hunter Portable. By the time Monster Hunter G came out in Japan, the PlayStation Portable was already making waves as a device that could do local networked play, so Capcom wanted to get the game on that device. Yasunori Ichinose, who had just finished up another
G rank equals master rank, which is what Iceborne adds. Oh.
The game at Capcom was free, so he was approached to direct a port of Monster Hunter G to the PSP, while the other team worked on a sequel to the first game called Monster Hunter DOS.
This might have been what
Not only did he only have 8 months and just 20 people to do it, the team had to rework the controls completely, since in the previous games, the analog sticks were used to attack, and in the portable game they opted to go with buttons. The power of the PlayStation Portable made the porting process relatively smooth, and allowed Ichinose to add his own touch to the game, such as revamping the Sword and Shield from a support weapon to something that people can actually solo with, emphasizing the feline aspect of the game with the feline kitchen, and even adding guild cards. Monster Hunter Portable was released on December 1st, 2005 and saw good success, more than Monster Hunter G had before it.
Okay, well, to have this many games, it's still fairly young compared to, other large franchises. I didn't realize Interesting. I didn't realize it was, it's launching on like the Wii and the PSP. I mean, maybe I'm just old and I still think of those as like young systems. But like, compared to like Zelda or Mario or whatever.
It took 2 years, but it would eventually sell 1 million copies. Portable was a great fit for Japanese players and as well as Monster Hunter, as it allowed...
PSP, by the way, extremely underrated console, handheld console. Extremely underrated. It was so good I had to like beg my friend to let me borrow his PSP. You had that Monster Hunter game. They ported like Phantasy Star over to it. You had Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, which was so good as an action RPG that they remade it in HD in December of last year for everything. You had Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, which was awesome, and that's where the Fulton recovery system was like debuted as a gameplay mechanic, I think, where you could like sedate or knock out enemies and then kidnap them with this balloon and put them on, conscript them into your military to work on your base, and then they added that in Metal Gear Solid 5. What else? Like Dissidia Final Fantasy, the only good version of that series. The other arcade stuff they put out is like, a bunch of dog water. But that original one, they somehow took a fighting game and made it feel like a Final Fantasy game. It was so good. So good. There was so much. There was it's completely slept on console, dude. It's insane. PSP was my childhood. Game Boy Advance was my handheld. Game Boy Advance and DS were my handhelds that I bought. But my whole life until I got a PS3, I was just like salivating after like PS2, PSP. I was like, man, PSP had it going on. Played the shit out of Monster Hunter on that thing. Nice, dude.
Players to play a networked experience with relative ease through its ad hoc capability. Monster Hunter DOS. Monster Hunter DOS, the sequel to the first game, was being developed by the original team on the exact same floor as Ichinose and his PlayStation Portable team. The concept was to really expand on what they wanted to do in the first game, with a larger world and more variation. They decided to add the flashy cousins to the existing weapons, so along Greatsword we got the Longsword, which was all about moving around in constant motion while attacking.
Okay.
For the Lance we got a Gun Lance, which allowed players to fire explosive shots, and for the bow guns we got the Bow. This
sense.
weapon was actually planned for the original game, but was cut because they wanted to focus on large monsters and powerful looking weapons.
Did I see the hunting horn?
And finally, for the hammer, we got its flashy cousin, the hunting horn. All because Kaname, who is Kaname Fujioka, but Kaname is kind of his pen name, insisted on wanting to play music during a hunt.
So many weapons were added. Most are trash, LMAO. Yeah. So Wombo Company, did you play these as they came out? Did you have access to them and stuff?
The team were unconvinced, but he had a very clear vision and got them on board.
Did Americans have access at this point? Was it just the PSP one?
The game also introduced the ice element and some other new mechanics like the charge mechanic for the greatsword, stun for the hammer, and they even introduced the decoration system in this game. Monster Hunter DOS came out on the PlayStation 2 on February...
I only play Japan version even now. Hardcore.
February 16th, 2006. It sold better than Monster Hunter G at about 700 February system in this mechanic for the greatsword, stun for the hammer. This element, unconvinced, but he had a very clear insisted on Kaname, who is Kaname Fujioka, but Kaname is kind of his pen name, insisted on wanting to play music during a hunt.
Okay.
The team were unconvinced, but he had a very clear vision and got them on board. The game also introduced the ice element and some other new mechanics like the charge mechanic for the greatsword, stun for the hammer, and they even introduced the decoration system in this game. Monster Hunter DOS came out on the PlayStation 2 on February 16th, 2006. It sold better than Monster Hunter G at about 700,000 copies over its lifetime.
I don't think DOS came out over here. Okay. Yeah, these numbers sound like Japan numbers.
But didn't quite compare to the success that they saw on the PlayStation Portable. Monster Hunter Portable second. And now we prepare to enter the first golden age of Monster Hunter and when it really took off as a social phenomena here in Japan. Monster Hunter Portable 2nd was created once again by Ichinose and his portable
Does Gaijin Hunter live in Japan?
Team, but instead of being a pure port, it was a brand new game heavily borrowing and inspired by Monster Hunter DOS. It introduced a new village of Poki.
That's really funny. Maybe you'll get this one with Combo Lunatic, but that's really funny because I'm pretty sure Gaijin Hunter has a very different meaning over in Japan. It doesn't mean like a American or foreigner that plays Monster Hunter. I don't think. That's why I thought it'd be so funny to have his YouTube channel name.
Borrowing and inspired by Monster Hunter.
Just means outsider hunter, yeah. Yeah.
It introduced a new village of Poke and was revolutionary in its innovation for background data loading. This sucked a lot out of the battery, but meant that players could move between zones with just a second or so of load time. It also introduced the Armor Sphere system. Monster Hunter Portable 2nd was released on February 22, 2007, and pretty quickly sold 1.72 million copies, hitting the first million in less than a month. This was triple that.
It's like a cougar. Are they usually cougars? I wouldn't know. I haven't been to Japan.
February 22, 2007, and pretty quickly sold 1.72 million copies, hitting the first million in less than a month.
Okay.
This was triple that of Monster Hunter DOS that came before it. Portable was where Monster Hunter was meant to be. Lifetime, the game went on to sell 2.4 million copies worldwide. In case you didn't know, the background theme that I use for many of my videos...
Yeah, touch grass enthusiast. That's what that means.
Including this
one. Instead of someone younger, it's a foreigner. Yeah, exactly.
One is the theme song of Poke Village from this game. Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G. Now, if Monster Hunter Portable 2nd was considered a big success, nothing could prepare the team for what was to come next. Following up Monster Hunter Portable 2nd, they decided to double down and create an expansion for the game and poured everything that they could into it. Not only in 1 year were they able to create a bunch of new content and monsters like Nargacuga, but they were once again...
This is a big bomb. Big? Let me back this up. So Portable 2G.
Now, if Monster Hunter Portable 2nd was considered a big success, nothing could prepare the team for what was to come next. Following up Monster Hunter Portable 2nd, they decided to double down and create an expansion for the game and poured everything that they could into it.
Okay.
Not only in 1 year were they able to create a bunch of new content and monsters like Nargacuga, but they were once again able to emphasize the feline aspect of the game, and that is the trademark of the Portable series. The game introduced the Palico, which is a feline that would hunt alongside you, the hunter, and this game would also mark the first time that Yozo Tsujimoto would become the series producer. While I won't go into details, while Kaname has quote-unquote the main series team and Ichinose is the Portable series team, core members work on both the titles that the teams make. Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G was released on March 27th, 2000.
Is that where Rise comes from? Is they just kind of considered Switch like the portable system that they allocated that team for?
2008, just 13 months after the previous game, and immediately...
Which one are we talking about now? Yes, exactly. There's the mainline team and the portable team. Yes, Rise's portable team. Got it. Makes a lot of sense.
Members work on both the titles that the teams make. Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G was released on March 27th, 2008, just 13 months after the previous game, and immediately became the third entry in the series to hit 1 million copies, eventually doubling that of Monster Hunter Portable 2nd, and including the greatest hits release, it sold a whopping 4.2 million copies in Japan alone.
How does it normally? How does the release cycle work then? Like you have the mainline game that everybody plays until the next mainline game, but then a portable one drops and people kind of take a break and play that one for a bit and then come back to the mainline one. Is that because that's what happened with World, right? Is like people took a break and played Rise and then came back to World, I guess. Is that kind of the timeline, or does it vary? I don't know. Maybe it varies.
Million copies, eventually doubling that of Monster Hunter Portable. The third entry, 7th 2008, just 13.
Portable was more popular for better part of Monster Hunter history. The portable games were huge. 13
months after the previous game, and immediately became the third entry in the series to hit 1 million copies, eventually doubling that of Monster Hunter Portable 2nd, and including the greatest hits release.
Japan.
It sold a whopping 4.2 million copies in Japan alone. Overseas, where it was known as Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, it was starting to get noticed by a niche set of players and gaining traction. This was the entry point of the series for many players here in Japan, and it really kicked off a massive focus on collaboration quests, events, and gear with different media outlets throughout Japan. Monster Hunter Tri. Capcom wanted to lay
Monster Hunter was more known as a huge domestic game. Yeah.
The groundwork for a new age of Monster Hunter, so Kaname and the main series team started work on Monster Hunter Tri, a game that would leave behind many of the aspects and assets of the older games and create brand new maps, a new stamina system for monsters, completely redone models, and even underwater hunting as well.
Underwater
Capcom
hunting?
was very ambitious with this.
Oh boy, we love our water levels, don't we, folks?
And it was originally planned for the PlayStation 3. In fact, they even announced it for the PlayStation 3 back in 2006. But a year and a half later, on October 10th, 2007, they revealed that due to the high costs associated with the development on PlayStation 3, they moved the game completely over to the Nintendo Wii. Monster Hunter Tri introduced many new things to the series, including a new weapon, which was the Switch Axe.
Yeah, PS3 was a pretty big flop. And that was unfortunately my entry into the Sony ecosystem. I will say by the time I got to it, they had kind of ironed out some of the kinks. But like for the first 2 years, it was bad. Like they were so expensive to make and the parts were so rare that like every store in every town only had like 2 or 3 PS3s at any given moment, and they were all sold out all the time. It was bad. And then nobody could like afford to like make a game for it. I remember the Ratchet and Clank game I played on. Ratchet and Clank: A Crack in Time was really good. Really good. Like it was like their version of like almost like Mario Galaxy. Not as good as Mario Galaxy, but it was really good. But beyond that, it was a pretty rough console. So.
Free hunting, customizable parts for the bowgun, and more. However, it did one controversial thing, which was they removed the dual blades, gun lance, hunting horn, and the bow from the game.
Really? They didn't add anything new?
In the 10th anniversary interviews, the developers said that they vowed not to do this again because they had a lot of complaints from players who had made those weapons.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Mario Galaxy is peaked, though. I got to go back and play it, honestly. I only played it like on at friends' houses, and like I just went and I beat the final level. I just died over and over until I beat the final level of both 1 and 2. I got a main GS and Tri LMAO. Yeah. That's why people got excited when they saw the restriction-free swimming in wilds. They thought swimming combat would come back. Yeah, I think they said it's not, though.
Monster Hunter Tri was released on August 1st, 2009 and sold 1.15 million copies.
Oh, I recognize that guy throwing the mud around.
Monster Hunter Tri was released on August 1st, 2009 and
oh, wow. Okay, he's been around for a while.
Sold 1.15 million copies, which was the highest selling third-party game
too.
for the Wii and the only third-party game to hit 1 million on that platform. But still nothing compared to the success.
It's pretty good. Only third-party Wii game to hit 1 million on the platform. That was one huge problem with the Wii was like, I mean, it wasn't a huge problem. The Wii had no huge problems. It was wild success. But in terms of like, you know, from the business side, but quality side, it had a ton of third-party shovelware and almost no good third-party exclusives.
That they were seeing coming off of the Portable series. Speaking of which, it's time to talk about Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. While Monster Hunter Tri was a success, the team was eager to get back to the Portable series, and Ichinose's team created a brand new game based on elements of both Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G and Monster Hunter Tri.
Okay.
The game had a hot spring motif, a brand new village called Yukumo, and a heavy Japanese design aesthetic throughout the entire game, including the series' favorite flagship monster, Zenogre.
Yeah, this is a very Japanese series up to this point. Oh, by the way, I'm not, just for people watching this later, I'm going to be stopping when we get to Monster Hunter World because I was warned about monster spoilers. So,
while Capcom originally planned to bring a new weapon to this game, they decided instead to focus on bringing back all the weapons they removed in Monster Hunter Tri, and even gave them all a bunch of new moves.
Oh, that's good.
Like the full burst for the gun lance, the arc demon mode for dual blades, ability to play songs and attack at the same time with the hunting horn, and arc shots for the bow. It also
another boom, so many players added in, glorious for this one. Okay, great.
Really upped the game in terms of the variation of armor and weapon choice for the Palicos. After all, the feline is a differentiating factor for the Portable series of the games. Monster Hunter Portable 3rd released on December 1st, 2010, and even without a G rank, it became the best-selling Monster Hunter game in Japan, and that still holds true even today.
Wait, what?
The game sold best-selling release on December 1st, 2010, and even without a G rank, it became the best-selling Monster Hunter game in Japan, and that still holds true even today. The game sold 2.14 million copies in the first 4 days alone, and quickly hit 4 million copies over the holiday season.
Wow.
It ended up selling 4.9 million copies in its lifetime and never got localized. They did release an HD version of the game on the PlayStation 3 here in Japan on August 25th, 2011, which is kind of ironic since Monster Hunter Tri was supposed to be on that system, but then got moved over to the Switch.
So many monsters in this video. I want back in Wilds. I want all of them OMG. That would be awesome. Did they never put them in World? They must have really taken stuff out of World. Huh?
Monster Hunter Tri G. The baton swapped back to Kaname and his team, and this was originally planned to be a port of Monster Hunter Tri for the 3DS, but with all 12 weapons like Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. However, the team once again was adding tons of new features to the game, and at the last minute they decided to rename the game Monster Hunter Tri G.
Oh wow, there I see them. I see a pattern here. They always want to add a bunch of new stuff, and then they end up upgrading their projects. That's cool. Yeah, Tri and 4 have a lot of lost monsters. Oh, okay. Every game has a few monsters that was just never used again. Lol. Yeah.
This was the first time the main series team had made a game for a portable machine. The team was interested in bringing the series to the 3DS not only due to the huge success the series had.
I guess it gives you incentive to go back and play them, huh?
Had seen on the PSP.
Interesting.
But the dual screens of the 3DS presented new gameplay and UI opportunities. Monster Hunter Tri G introduced new stuff like Street Pass.
Going from playing Bow on PSP to 3DS was such a pain. Did they make you use the stylus? Let's go. That's cool. Honestly, DS, I don't know about 3DS, but DS controls with touch stylus was kind of fun. It was kind of cool at the time, like Metroid and Star Fox. It was a little clunky, but it was pretty cool. I just used my finger. You'd use the thumb and the deep and the pad. Oh, okay.
The target camera, which I love, and the blast element, back then it was called Slime. Monster Hunter Tri G was released on December 10th, 2011, and sold 1.9 million copies, about the sales of Monster Hunter Portable 2nd. Not bad at all considering they were just building up a new fan base on the Nintendo 3DS platform, and it performed better than the Wii game. This was a step in the right direction. This was also the first title that showed really good sales potential for overseas players, selling about 800,000 copies.
Okay.
The game was later released as an HD port on the Wii U on December 8th, 2012. This was notable because the 3DS did not have online play, just local multiplayer, so this is the first time the players on Tri G were able to play online with other hunters. It was now time for the next major step for the Monster Hunter series with Monster Hunter 4. The Monster Hunter series normally does not go quiet for more than 1 year unless something big was happening, and this is exactly what was going on with Monster Hunter 4. Led once again by Kaname and the main series team, Monster Hunter needed a second wave after the burst that was Monster Hunter Portable 2nd through Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, and that is exactly what they got with the 4th generation, which would bring the biggest gameplay changes the series had yet to see to that point, changing the feel of the game moving forward even to today. The team released a concept video of the game on September 2000.
It looks a lot more like aggressive from this point.
2011 to show off the new radical concept of verticality which they were going to add in this game. Up until this point, Monster Hunter games were only really flat terrain. No jumping or anything of the sort was incorporated in the actual hunting. The game had a ton of new features, such as new maps that took advantage of the change in game design.
So many kids join to have lots of online manner problems. Yeah, a lot of shit talking online.
Jump attacks, mounting, guild quests, Wi-Fi supported for the first time ever for online play on portable machines, and a whopping 2 new weapons, the Insect Glaive and the Charge Blade. It was also very different from past games in that this was much more cinematic and story driven. Monster Hunter 4 was released on September 14th, 2013, and sold 1.97 million copies in just the first 2 days.
Wow.
Breaking the opening week sales of Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, which was at 1.95 million. In its lifetime, it went on to sell 3.6 million copies here in Japan. The game was actually never localized because Capcom decided instead of bringing the base game and then expansion over to the West, they wanted to double down and just bring the expansion to the West and hope for big success. Thus enter Monster Hunter 4G. Monster Hunter 4G was released on October 11th, 2014, just 13 months after the release of Monster Hunter 4, and it sold 2.6 million copies in Japan, but it was the first million seller overseas, selling roughly 1.3 million copies in its lifetime. The adoption of
Charge Blade was trash in 4 though. Lol. That's funny. Only sin is being trapped in handheld jail.
Focused elements, which in turn sped up the gameplay and provided more options for players, was likely one of the reasons for its success. Plus, this was the first time that Capcom really put ample marketing dollars behind the game in the West as well. This title had some radical changes for the Charge Blade, introduced new systems like Apex monsters, bleeding status element, relic weapons, which is where the Call of Tarath weapon sort of came from, and worked to expand the mechanics of the base game like guild quests. Monster Hunter Cross, or in the West we call it Monster Hunter Generations. It was time for the return of Ichinose and his portable team, including Shintaro Kojima as the producer, for an anniversary title for Monster Hunter. This game was a celebration of all the past games by including all 4 generations of villages, a huge roster of monsters, 4 new flagship monsters, and much more. And because Feline is a concept of the portable series games,
I was going to say there needs to be like an anthology, but I guess they kind of did that.
Even introduced a playable Palico in the form of the Prowler. The game
That big snake is the monster the Rotten Veil is made out of? Whoa.
Intentionally was experimental, and it introduced hunter styles and hunter arts, allowing for different ways to play each weapon, which is something that the series was seriously lacking up until this point. The game was released on November 28, 2015, and sold 2.8 million copies in its lifetime in Japan. It was released in the West as Monster Hunter Generations and sold about 1.5 million copies. Monster Hunter Double Cross. The main team was still...
I think one of these, maybe this one, the Generations, or 4, I think maybe Generations. I think it came out on Switch, and I bought it on sale, and I technically played it, but I didn't make it out of the base camp. I didn't even make it to playing the game, to combat. I like got to the base camp and then noped out. If it was on Switch, it was GU, so XX. Oh, Generations Ultimate. Yeah, then it would have been this.
Secretly working on Monster Hunter World since the end of Monster Hunter.
I got to some kind of base camp and then I just left it. I just left it.
Or G, and they needed...
Yep, everyone's first time playing is just a nope out moment. Yeah, apparently I had 2 of them.
More time.
Repressed
so Capcom
memories.
decided to follow up Monster Hunter Cross with an expansion called Monster Hunter Double Cross. Expanding on the monster roster, introducing 2 new flagship...
What if we get Monster Hunter Triple Cross, Monster Hunter XXX?
Monsters, a bunch of new deviants, 2 new hunter styles.
What if instead of Monster Hunter, it was Monster Freaker, and instead... Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm on TikTok too much.
The game was jam-packed with content to play. It sold 1.7 million copies in Japan, and it was later ported to Nintendo Switch half a year later on August 25th, 2017. Its Western release was only on the Switch, and that was a year later on August 28th, 2018. Like I've been doing for these past games, looking at press releases and figures for Japan and overall series.
Look at the spike, dude. That's fucking crazy. Dude, they hit it big. Wow. Wow, that's nuts. Old era of Monster Hunter. So like the majority of it, and then boom, World. Rise would be in second place. Yeah. That's crazy.
It appears to have sold about 1.3 million copies overseas. My personal take is that the 3DS was getting fatigued in Japan at this point. Monster Hunter 4 was a huge release in Japan and had really big changes, and while Monster Hunter Cross was cool and sold well, it was really just an anniversary title, so Double Cross felt a little tacked on, unlike the previous entries. Plus, the focus on 3DS as a platform was starting to die down while...
That's one thing I'll say. When you're creating something to be released and like received and everything like that, it's, you know, I'm not a game developer, but like, you know, it's universal rule. It is so important to just be consistent with like your progress. Like you should always be the faster, the more you can iterate based on what you learn from each thing you put out, like, and faster, the better what you put out is going to be. And that means each time you put something out, your test, you know, you get feedback, you put out another thing, you're consistently putting something out. Every time you put that out, you have a chance of like blowing up, right? But you know, the more that you iterate and improve based on feedback that you get from, to the extent that you do get success, the higher your chances of blowing up the next time you put it out, and the next time you put it out, and the next time you put it out. I learned that from being coached on how to make my own YouTube thumbnails and like be serious about it and get good at it. And it paid off in that. But it's literally, it's like every creative endeavor where you like need to put something out and you're expecting reception. It's like, if you can like iterate on feedback and look at any data that you get from it and iterate on like just make, and when I say iterate, I mean like incrementally improve things for the next one, and then just keep doing that, and just you're consistently doing that and improving in an upward direction. Like eventually, because it's a lot of times it's random and it just kind of depends on things outside of your control. You may blow up early, you may blow up later, but you will eventually blow up. You know, that's like the karma in like creative endeavors. Is like if you're consistently creating, and you're not just like churning out like stuff. You're not just coasting. If you're consistently creating and consistently pushing your craft, when your time comes, you're going to hit it really big. So blew up all right. Yeah, and you can tell all of these games, it's like, you know, they're all like really like putting a lot of thought into it and stuff. And then it blew up, man.
All the focus was going
like
over.
You could see the karma. They like cashed in the karma with the world, you know,
to the Nintendo Switch. This was a great game, however, for Capcom to let their upcoming director, Daisuke Ichihara, get his feet wet. He did a great job and ended up being the director on the Iceborne expansion of Monster Hunter World.
Oh.
Monster Hunter World. June 13th, 2017.
So should I stop watching immediately, or is there going to be a
the
little spoilers? Let me see if I can get a little info out of this.
World by revealing a radical new generation of Monster Hunter for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One called Monster Hunter World. Like the new model and system overhaul they did in Monster Hunter Tri and the radical system changes in Monster Hunter 4, this game would bring about a complete fresh coat of paint for the series and rework many of the mechanics that the series had up until this point. I won't get into the number of changes since there are far too many.
Okay. Well, I haven't gotten that spoiled yet, but hold on. What if I do this? What if I hold on. What if I go to Gaijin Hideout and I go to this? Boom. And I play this.
Too many,
switch to this.
But the Slinger, Turf Wars, living and breathing environment with no loading between zones, and the new 16-player online hubs are major highlights. This would also be the long-awaited director debut for Yuya Tokuda, the prolific game and monster designer that was behind many of the large changes in the series' past, and series director Kaname stepping aside and acting as art director. The game ended up shipping 5 million copies in the opening 3 days, breaking a new record for the series. To date, the game has sold 2.9 million copies in Japan, while a whopping 13.2 million copies overseas,
Crazy.
making it Capcom's best-selling game ever. Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Announced on December 10, 2018 and released September 2019, Iceborne was the expansion release to Monster Hunter World. Instead of having only a physical release that carries over your save data, Capcom also sold this as a DLC addition to the base game. It introduced a large new map, the Clutch Claw, and a new free hunt mode called the Guiding Lands. It was also the second director debut for Ichihara, who had joined during Generations, was allowed to direct Generations Ultimate, and now was able to direct Iceborne. It's great to see Capcom raising new talent. Iceborne to date has sold roughly 1.6 million copies in Japan and 4.2 million copies overseas.
That's really good for an expansion.
So where do we go from here? I've made several videos talking about the hints that Capcom keeps dropping that they're committed to working on Switch games, and it makes complete sense that the next big game would probably be one for the Switch.
And it was.
Especially considering that it will take Capcom several years to make a proper follow-up for Monster Hunter on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Also, Japan is kind of left underserved here in this 5th generation. While World and Iceborne definitely sold well, it's still far less than what something like Monster Hunter 4 sold. The Switch is a prime device in this country, the appetite here is for portable friendly games, and I think it's about time we see what Ichinose and his team have been up to. I could be wrong, but this is probably how it's going to work out. Just looking at the patterns of the past games,
okay,
the series has always had
this is just predictions for something that already happened. So I could just bring that up as a little addendum without spoiling anything. I'll sneak in the Wikipedia trailer article. Monster Hunter Rise came out in 2021. Because how's this look on this screen? Came out in 2021 for the Nintendo Switch. Was released worldwide 2021 with a Windows port in 2022. Are we going to have to wait for a port for Wilds? I hope not. Rise is fun, stationary for the win. Rise follows many of the new conventions established in Monster Hunter World while also introducing new features and mechanics, including a new animal companion called a Palamute that can be used to ride across the map or into battle, and the use of wire bugs to traverse the world and mount and ride certain monsters. Well, we had that in World, right? I guess they're saying it's both. The game received generally positive reviews upon its release, with critics praising the gameplay and its expansion of the mechanics within World. It has sold more than 15 million copies worldwide since launch, making it the second best-selling game in the series. Sunbreak has sold more than 8 million since launch. Okay. Player 2 World of Hunter, blah, blah, blah. Rise uses the same seamless map approach introduced in Monster Hunter World. Unlike the zoned areas typical of the earlier games of the series, its maps are more focused on vertical movement than previous games, as implied by its title. Oh, Rise, like you're going up. I get it. So new tools are given to the player to help with quick vertical scaling. The wire bug, similar to the clutch claw added in Monster Hunter Iceborne. Oh, wire bug's a tool. It's not a bug. Allows the player to grapple and swing, or is it a bug? Did they give you one of the bugs? Wilds is on PC day one. Awesome. Awesome. We're living in the future, finally. They are bugs, too. It's a bug. It's one of the bugs? Oh, cool. They give you the bug. It has different interactions with each weapon type, adding to that weapon set of moves and combos. Allows the player to engage certain monsters. And wyvern riding, letting the hunter mount and control creatures. That's cool. Palamutes for the new dog-like companion. Single player, local, and online multiplayer modes with up to 4 hunters in a group. Cool. In addition, introduces Rampage, a tower defense mode where players must defend the base village from several attacking monsters. What in the Ark Survival Evolved? They let you zip around. Wirebugs were a hunting gadget that made you Spider-Man, essentially, and gave some weapons special moves. God, Rampages. So this one, like, so what was the deal? So it had multiplayer. Does it still have multiplayer in it? Or did they shut that down and leave World open? Or do you even need servers to play Rise multiplayer if it's a Switch game? And then they had Sunbreak, which is the expansion, right? And reception, pretty good, pretty solid, or good, I guess. Critics praised the addition of new tools such as wire buds in the game's expansion of Monster Hunter World's mechanics. Sales 1.3 in its first week, 6 million units by April 2027, and I think it's at 15 in total. All right, cool. Sweet. Well, that was a good intro. Yeah, it should still be up. Okay. Rise still does. Rise is still very good. Less immersive and obviously worse graphics, but there's just so much more mechanics and quality of life. Why would they shut down the newest Monster Hunter titles server, Jeff? I don't know. I read something that they were shutting down some servers. I'm not sure. But because you were saying that they were... well, let's look. Monster Hunter World. Because it's late on a Saturday night. Let's see. All right, most viewed is 169 viewers. You can't really see this, but that's okay. 169 viewers, 79 viewers, 72 viewers. Yeah, it's pretty active on Friday nights. Monster Hunter Rise. 27, 21, 18, 17. Yeah, it fell off for whatever reason. 69, nice. Rise is very underrated. I wonder why. Is it just the design? Is it like the aesthetic? Because everyone playing it's Japanese. Not everyone, but it's VTubers. This guy is not... Okay, that's a different language. World is bigger here. I think Rise is a better aesthetic than World. World has better graphical fidelity. A lot of people that started with World thought Rise is a downgrade. World just appeals to more people, TBH, as simple as that. Yeah, I think it's more... I guess it must be more realistic, and Rise is more anime. To be honest, immersion is so important for me personally. Oh, okay. Well, maybe when I run out of wildcard streams, games to stream or whatever, we'll just put Monster Hunter Rise on Tuesday. That'll be my total capitulation to the Monster Hunter communities when you just see a different Monster Hunter game on Tuesday and then like the mainline Monster Hunter game on Thursday. That's funny. It's the difference between realism and arcade. Gotcha. Rise is also more arcadey feeling. Okay, cool. All right, well that was great. That was a cool video. I learned a lot. That was good to get that kind of background. It's really interesting how they've very clearly had the same elements in since day one, like the same known enemies and stuff, and they've been able to sustain like affection for hunting them and stuff like that. It's not, while adding new ones, I guess, over time. And then it sounds like there's unique ones across every game to give people incentive to play. Sounds like they really did everything right in that regard. Sounds like they really nailed, same with the gameplay elements. It's like they're sticking to the fundamentals and making sure the foundations of the game are just improving. And then they also seem very dedicated to multiple times in their history, it was just supposed to be a quick and dirty port, and then they kept adding things in, and then they were like, let's upgrade the project title to, it's going to be it's justifiably a different product now. That's always good. That's a sign that the development team is they're really good and they're being allowed to do their job and build on things. When you're getting like that kind of, they're not suffering from any kind of debt, any kind of lingering debt from, shortcuts they made or stuff in the past. It seems like they're only profiting over time in terms of the fidelity of the games that they're putting out. They're able to build on things, and it gets better, not worse, it seems. So that's a great sign. And it's also really cool that the same people have been working on it the whole time. Software, you really do need to have the same person on it. People don't like to think that way at all. Like business people don't, but turnover is devastating for any software project, no matter how much business types want to plug their ears and pretend that's not the case. It is organic, and that even if they're not working directly on it, that extends to the project, oversight level. So if you put someone else in there, whether it's on the code, you want to lose as few literal individual developers, coders as possible. You also want to lose as little leadership as possible, because their leadership affects the people whose hands are directly on the code. And so to have the same leadership the entire time is huge. That's huge, because I do get the vibe that this is the product of several cycles of undisrupted productive development. That's the vibe I get. And I wish I always, as somebody who worked in tech, I always wish for more of that in the world. So, they're good. Jeff gameplay B-roll, LOL. Yeah, this is what I'm going to do instead of a video essay. I'm just going to improv it on the spot on a stream, with B-roll from my own YouTube channel. Rise is definitely a Monster Hunter fans kind of game. You have ZMH fans, and then you have Monster Hunter World fans. Oh yeah, you remember this part, guys, where my camera went out in the last stream? That was fun. I didn't even know it happened during this section. Look at the top tier delegation. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this reaction if you're on YouTube. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Would appreciate it. It's free. Also, if you are interested in seeing a Monster Hunter noob react to the ups and downs and all the struggles and triumphs of his first playthrough in any Monster Hunter game, I am streaming Monster Hunter World live every Thursday at 6 p.m. EST at over on twitch.tv/Gaijin Hideout. So please join over there, follow. You can be in the live chat. Sometimes I go live like I am tonight, and I do live reactions on stream with chat. You can be in the chat that you're seeing right now on your screen in the video. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.